How's everybody doing this Sunday? What's going on? We got our some of our guests coming up in this room from all over the place today. I'm excited about this Sistership Sunday because we got an amazing fire topic today. We getting ourselves settled in here. But I want to say hello and happy Sistership Sunday today. I want to thank you all for joining us. We are here every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you join in on Gynesis Radio or the sistership.com. With that said, let me introduce our panel today. We've got Lady K in the room. Lady K, up to my...
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sapphire.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are so happy here because Lady K and I are the co-hosts, but we got a room full of guests here that are going to be bringing the fire. Today's topic is protecting our relationships. And what we mean by protecting our relationships is going to be a lot more focus on relationships as we think are partnerships. However, you never know, because if we really dig deep enough, it could go back to our family, our childhood, and then some. Which one?
Just turn more up.
Excuse us while we try to get these volumes turned up here. We good? All right. With that said, I want to introduce Lauren. She is always supporting the sistership here from Women's Resources. Lauren Peterson, thank you so much for being with us again today. She's going to help us weed through all these areas that we need to be talking about as we talk about psychological. You know, we get into the physical a lot, but we need to be talking about the emotional, the psychological elements, the verbal, when we talk about abuse in our relationships. And the other piece is, how do we then get better at managing through our relationships, whether it be how we speak to one another or how we move in our relationships with one another. I want to introduce Salih Bey up in here. More to Life. Make sure you check him out. How you doing, Salih Bey?
I'm all right.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Mr. Takeover Tuesday, Taro.
Hello, everybody. What's going on?
So, you know, to have this conversation, it's got to be gelling everybody together, right? Because we can't just always talk about the women or just about the men. We need to come together as a force if we're really going to heal one another and how we manage through our relationships, right? Right?
Yeah.
That's right. So with that said, I'm glad that we actually have a panel full of amazing men and women here because we do need to engage everybody and bring everybody together. I just want to throw out there, we will be taking calls if you have comments or questions. Quick, fast, in a hurry on the phone, 888-304-4401. Make sure you call in if you have any comments or questions. We will be starting to take calls at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time for those that are on the Central and the West Coast or wherever coast you're at, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. So let's talk about it. So I want to get into this whole, and I know Will and Jada is kind of old, right? We don't hear too much going on with that situation. However, there's some history there, right? With what's going on and the reaction that Will had on stage with Chris Rock. Let's keep it real. There was a lot of discussion about how Jada, you know, is managing the relationship with Will. Then you had Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. And here we are in another situation. However, as we saw, for anybody who actually saw the case, there was a lot of toxicity in that marriage. And how they treated one another. And obviously Amber Heard lost the case. I did see the case pretty much in full. And I did notice that, you know, there are men in this world that are dealing with toxic relationships with their female counterparts or their partners. So it's not just a woman thing, it's a man thing as well. And the question is, you know, we have to go back and understand what is driving some of these toxic environments that we continue to, you know, be in our relationships. So I want to kind of talk quickly about what are some of the things that we feel is considered toxic in a relationship? What are some, whether it be verbal or what have you? And I know we can talk about physical, because we always do talk about domestic violence from a perspective of physical abuse, but there's all the other layers to that. What do we consider toxic in a relationship?
One thing I want to point out, abrasive language. And a lot of people don't realize is, that's a toxic, because they don't even recognize it, because sometimes they might be used to that type of language, and it makes, it's not registering to them, oh, this person is speaking to me how my family speaks. I'm so used to this, but not realizing it's abrasive. And it can hurt later down the line, but later down the line, you might reflect back and say, oh, you know what? That was toxic. Why did I accept that? And it goes back to sometimes how you was raised, the environment that you was in. So you, again, sometimes people have a hard time recognizing it. And that was the first thing that came to my mind, because that was me. And I was used to that because of the language that my family carries. I'm thinking, oh, this is normal. And then once I got to a certain point of me working on me, I'm like, no, that's not cool. So if a person comes to my space with that link, I stop them right there. And you don't go no further.
So verbal, right?
Yes.
So negative layers of communication, certain words
Right.
that are used and that are negative, right?
Right.
In a relationship. What are some of the words that if we think about conversations we've had with our partners or even our family members, what is considered unprotective when we talk about the words that are used that makes you feel that you're not protected in that relationship?
Calling someone a B,
Mhm.
calling someone an N. It's like, really? Is that everything every other word, is that out your mouth? That's not cool.
Well, I think a lot of it boils down to respect.
Mm.
And whether it's a domestic abuse situation, which we talked about, that power and control, or if it's toxic relationships, you have to have a level of respect for that other person, and respect for their decisions, respect for their boundaries, respect for their bodies and themselves. And once you cross over that line where you do not respect that other person, that's the line that you don't come back from. And that's where you can travel down into that toxic relationship, or even further into domestic abuse, domestic violence. So I really think it comes down to something as simple as respecting other people. And whether you agree with what their decision is about themselves, you have to respect that. They're autonomous. They're another person. But in a relationship, having open conversations that is, again, respectful, using respectful language. And if you feel like you can't, if you feel like those emotions start to get heightened, and we all know, especially right now, the levels of emotions are very, very high. We're seeing it across the board. I was taught this as a kid. If you feel like you're getting yourself angry, walk away. Just walk away, cool down, come back to it with a clearer head. Just walk away from the situation. However, then you see some situations of toxic relationships, abusive relationships, where then that primary aggressor just keeps going, just nagging, just continuing to verbally abuse them, to follow them around the house, isn't giving them that space. And that is about not respecting them. This person making a decision to walk away, they're not respecting that decision.
So, respect. So let me get to Salibe and Terrell here. Let's talk about respect. What are your thoughts about how and let's talk about like even your experiences in relationships. What do you consider is respectful versus being disrespected? Because I think sometimes we lose sight of what really respect means in our relationship, because we might have our own guardrails, our own the words or actions that we feel are respectful or disrespectful. What are your thoughts? And I'll start with Taro, because then I want look, Salibe ain't gonna miss this one.
All right, so we're gonna talk about respect in a relationship, right? I think a lot of disrespect takes place in relationships when it comes to like mental, how can I say,
Manipulation.
Mental abuse. You gotta figure, 9 times out of 10, when a man mental abuses a woman, or try to control that woman, whatever the case may be, It's like a mental thing.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? It makes the person feel
Hey.
smaller than what they actually are.
Hello?
When it comes to a woman mental abusing a man, it's different. I mean, men, as I said, we are, how can I say, we're more of how can I say it? Well, I'm putting it like this. We value ourselves as kings. You understand what I'm saying? And we value our women as queens. You understand? So when we're told that you ain't this or you ain't that or, this or that, blah, 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 like always downplaying us, and not supporting our dreams and not supporting our movements or whatever the case may be. That's sort of a mental abuse because not only am I fighting the world, now I'm coming home and I'm fighting within. So how can I, as a man, win a battle when I have everything against me mentally?
So it's kind of like attacking your sense of self.
Right. You understand? And we look at a woman as a queen, and I always taught up to never put hands or abuse, whatever the case may be. And so when you're that type of person and you start receiving that, it's like a kind of like a letdown. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
put you down.
wow,
When
like,
you constantly getting jagged at.
right,
Yeah.
you
It's like
understand what I'm saying? Like I'm
yeah,
doing so much, and whatever the case may be. I don't want my viewers and my listeners thinking that I'm talking about me, and I'm just talking hypothetically.
No, it's experiences.
I'm
It's
talking
life
hypothetically.
experiences.
Right.
So
Right, but you understand, and it's like that kind of plays a major part.
Right.
You understand? If your man comes home, he loses his job.
psychological.
You understand what I'm saying? He doesn't want to hear what you gonna do now.
Right.
Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. He's trying to figure it out already. But then you hear you coming on with the onslaught.
I got a story behind that.
You understand what I'm saying?
Losing their job and not being able to provide. So I was married before. I remember my husband wasn't working, and we had went out to dinner with family. And when it time came for the bill, nobody knew this, but I actually slipped money into his hands. So when the bill came out of him, he can just pull it out. So my mother at the dinner, she was like, "Oh, I see D. He was loaded tonight," and I said, "Yeah." Because I had his back.
Yes.
So I don't never think that it's never good for when a man is low for a woman to jag him like that.
Continue to jag
that
at
his
him, yeah.
self-esteem. That makes him feel low as a man. It's not enough. He feel like he can't provide, and that's what a lot of men do. They provide. So that makes him feel good when he can provide for his family. But he can't, and you're belittling him. That just takes him to a whole nother level, a whole nother stage.
And that's a level of respecting and you actually said some things that really I think we need to focus our energy on as well is in the outside world, you're already challenged
Right.
at the neck. You know what I'm saying? You're already down because society is putting you there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Constantly jabbing at you. And then you come home and your partner is throwing more stuff on you when you're already, and I think women need to, and this is why this conversation is so important because women need to understand how a man thinks and how they're affected by certain things so that we can understand how we operate more effectively in communication and working together as a unit versus this one controls and the other, you know what I'm saying? We have to work together as a unit. So I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think it's important for people to understand your psyche, as a man, what that does to you when you're put in that type of situation. Again, not saying you personally are dealing with that, but there's a lot of men that are dealing with
I'm
that.
gonna do a shout out to my wife. I love you.
Shout out to his wife
My wife
because
is the
she's
one.
awesome.
She's the one that would slide that money up under the table and say
right.
don't make me look bad in
Yeah.
the situation.
Well, it
You
comes
understand what I'm saying?
absolutely, and relationships, healthy relationships, it is a partnership, as I
Yes.
stated, and working with each other to build each other up, both individually, each other, but also as a unit, as a cohesive unit. When you have a healthy relationship, you should feel safe, you should feel heard, you should feel respected. And when one of those three things is not there, then you're sliding into an unhealthy relationship. If you're in a relationship where you do not feel like you're a better person by being in that relationship, that's something you need to examine. And if it's because of the other person, then maybe you need to examine if that's the person you want to be with.
That part.
Woo!
Ooh.
That
Get that
part
right.
right
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
part right there.
I'm
So-
bringing the heat.
Bring it in.
You
Bring it, Lauren.
Look, you got that fire here, but look, the fire isn't coming from me. It's coming from everybody in here. So we're bringing the heat today. But it is the truth, and we want to speak truth
Right.
because truth is power. And that's how we get to healing and getting to addressing some of the issues that we're dealing with, and making sure the audience understands that, especially if they're dealing with these situations, they understand where it's coming from, and we're coming from a place of love. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Mr. More to Life, let's talk.
I think relationships are overrated.
Ooh.
I
What
guess
does
I
that
have to
mean?
play the devil's advocate here.
Tell them. We only like the
We do a
beginnings.
lot of that. I think we should pay attention to the companionship, the interactions. In Islam, they don't even talk about the love part when we get married. They talk about the political aspect first, the intentions behind why you love this woman. Is she pious, wealthy? Then you get into they say, I'll get around to loving her as long as everything is put together in order. Because we're dealing with legacies. If you marry someone, you got to be thinking about 20, 30, 40 years. If you're dating someone, I mean, you're not even allowed to interact. You have to have a conversation. You know what I mean? You have to know where your values are, what's your intentions in life, what's your purpose in life. I think me growing up, I was a baby after babies. So that was the coping mechanism for me. The household wasn't good. Like you said, it could come from parenting, absent fathers, absent mothers, dysfunctional family members, a list of things. That's why we deal with hereditary curses and things of that nature. So when we talk about toxicities, human, not woman versus man, we gotta talk about it like the human aspect. Just from the social, status quo and all of that, we all are toxic because we all have these ideas. That's why there's a like button. That's why there's comments. I can make a status on Facebook and I could get bombed, and it wasn't in my personal view. It was just something that I like, kind of. But relationships to me, I feel like they come with crazy rules. And most of these rules nowadays are really based on the woman's side of things. I will say that. I appreciate it though. Just communication too. Because definitely, if you're in a relationship where it's N's and B's going on, that's not a relationship. That's a battle. You might as well get in a cipher. You know what I'm saying? To beatbox or something. That's why my show is more to life, because it's so much more to life than just a relationship. We have to think of companionship. Just being evenly yoked, that yin and that yang. You might be the yin one day. It's sad though, that we pay attention to the fact that the man is supposed to pay or open the door. I want the door open for me sometimes. Don't ever put the money under the table for me. You put it on the table, because I just might pass you the check anyway, because I'm gonna pay when I have it, and we're gonna know that. 50 Cent said something that was amazing to me. He couldn't understand why every week his grandfather would give his grandmother his whole check. He'd just give it to her, the whole check. And he was like, man, you're crazy. You don't. Well, Saturday when she wants to go shopping and she wants those shoes, those red shoes, and he might not be red by them, she understands why, because she sees the check. You understand? So, we go through a lot of insecurities as men, as women, and that's the first relationship with self, and being able to balance that out, and it's sad. I look at my history, I look at like things that, I think the last time I was on your show, I kind of like, a light bulb went off about my grandmother and my mother. And it's amazing because when I look at my family tree, all you see is women. You don't see the male side of things. And that's kind of shocking to me. And I'm the first grandfather in 35 years. And I'm grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say, I just lost my mom recently. And, just to see where she was at, her sacrifices, which we call them, sacrifices for her family, for her children. And I just look at it and go, well, she didn't have a partner though. You know, all these sacrifices that you lay out, make sure that it's sacrifices for people that understand the purpose, understand that we're legacy building, understanding that we have to break hereditary curses. When you deal with somebody, you really have to pay attention to the soul tie that you're creating. We stay on the surface level of things, you know. You have to think about the religion. You have to think about the traditions, you know. You have to, it's so many things when you're talking about relationship, you have to really, really pay attention to, because it's an investment. You don't get time back, period. So,
Time.
you know what I mean? Time is most
Yep.
important when it comes to life. So, yeah, respectfully valuing somebody's opinion or what they say, but be competent, you know, and be receptive. You know what I mean? That's how it's reciprocated. You know, compassionate, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. We've all been angry, we've all argued, you know, but it's more to life, because if you don't get the opportunity to apologize or go your way, you know, I'm non-confrontation. I don't like confrontation, so I do agree with the walk away thing. You know? And it's like, I'd rather we not get along and you still live a good life and your happiness, you know, happiness and appreciation. That's what it should be balanced with, you know. For me, that's me personally. You know, yeah. Like I said, I don't know why TP chimed in like that, but I really, really feel like relationship, that word is like rules. These are the laws of relationship, and that's not true, because it's relationships.
It's a partnership.
And not only that, we all come from different walks.
Yeah.
So that relationship can't be placed on just those rules.
Absolutely.
You know?
Right.
So, you know, I listen to readings on YouTube, and most of the time I want to know about self, and half the time they're talking about relationships. And I'm like, that's not what the reading is for. Tarot is to, you know, get into your zodiac and understand what could possibly be going on in your life at this time, you know, to balance yourself. So these mediums, you know, these holistic healers, some of them, they're just doing it for the money. And that's a lot of, I mean, you have people's intentions, what they're signing up for. And if it's not based on the heart, mind, body, and soul, we could use all the words in the world.
Yep. And you make a good point, mind, body, and soul, because I agree with you. I think it does start from self and self-realization, ensuring that you understand how you are. Are you healthy within yourself to be able to give to anybody else? And I'm not saying give as, you know, you're just putting yourself, you know, fully out there, not getting reciprocated.
Right.
Because I think and you know, again, I know you say relationships comes with all type of, you know, expectations, right?
Yes.
But
Now,
we have
just
to have
think about that.
partnerships.
Think about that. You're gonna set expectations on somebody else's life.
Mhm.
Like, is that's love?
You make a good point there. You
So
make
that
a
means
very
I
good
have
point
to be
there.
responsible for my heart and your heart.
Right.
So we can't just enjoy the time together
Right.
and show the appreciation. You know, I'm a Abraham Hicks guy. So she says I like you a lot. I love me, but I like you a lot. And I appreciate the moments. You know, we get caught up in, I mean, I've been there where I'm holding this girl's hand and she's like, why didn't you put your arm around me? I mean, yeah. I mean, what I'm supposed to. So now I'm gonna hop I'm gonna hop from one foot to the next. You know what I'm saying?
Like you said, expectation.
Yeah,
Right.
we should never set expectations on the next person.
Right.
But we set expectations upon ourselves. That's all right. But never think somebody else is not. I mean, you're not gonna go in a booth for me. Not unless I be like, Terrell, I need you on this track. But you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
I'm not gonna spit my bars. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
I mean, yeah. It's
But,
like,
but let me ask you this though. I get the whole, you know, we're setting expectations and now I have to do exactly what you want because that's what you expect. However, it's a conversation to say, why do I feel, or why does that person feel they need that, right? To make them feel good or protected or assured that they're getting what they need in a relationship. So I think it comes back to the conversation on what they feel might even be healthy for them. because what they need.
I
That
think
could
that's
be
a cause of.
that could become parasitic.
I think it's called. I think it's a low self-confidence. Like
Low self-esteem.
low self-esteem.
I
I want to be hugged. I'm just
It's not-
saying
it's
that
not-
my
no,
husband will put his arm
But it's
around me.
not that. What I'm saying is,
You
again,
shouldn't have to ask
good
for
No,
it.
I shouldn't have to ask
that's
for
the
it.
thing.
That
The
is the
expectation
point.
parts of it all.
That's the
That's what
point.
throws everything off.
I love that. I love that.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yes.
You ever heard the expression when it said, "Don't force a person to do stuff"?
Yes.
Look, fall back and watch them what they want to do. That's the key
That's
thing
right.
that a lot of
That's
people
right.
miss. If I tell you in particular, this is type of what I like, but you keep bringing me this,
You're not
paying attention
listening.
to me.
You're not listening.
You're not paying attention to
Right.
me. So it has nothing to do with the water. It has everything that you're not paying
With the
attention. So I'm gonna let you go because you're not paying attention to me.
Mm.
And that's not the only thing. There's other stuff that you're not paying attention to. And if I bring it to your attention, I say, well, I don't like this, and you continue to do it. Well, this is why I have to examine and say, well, should I remove myself?
Mm.
Is it worth it being with this person that the person's not paying attention to what I like? Because this is how I treat myself. So this is how I'm going to continue to treat myself. What you do is extra. But if you keep doing this, I'm just going to,
Wow.
and that's how I feel.
Wow. Now, but you know what? Well, hold on. Let's bring it.
Can I
Let's
ask
bring
can I
it.
ask one question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Maybe
Say he can't get that type of water that you like.
Okay.
But now, are you gonna fault him for that? Because he's getting you that water? He's still trying.
Mm.
He's still trying.
I look
He
at it
might
like
not be
this.
able to get you that diamond. Might get you a cubic, but at least it's the attention. He's trying.
I look at it like this. I look at it like this. If I have to become your happiness, you're never gonna be happy.
Right. That's why I said you're
Key.
happy with yourself first.
That's a
Right.
key.
You know
That's a
what
key
I'm saying?
word. That's a key word.
I dig it though, because if I want Fiji, and you continuously bring it, I'm gonna look at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Set
Right.
expectations.
But I'm also gonna continue to get my Fiji.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
gonna-
I'm not
Exactly.
gonna
I
do
want to treat
Because
myself
once you
what
give
I
them
like.
power, I mean, it's the law of attraction. So the individual that's in front of you, you summons them. You summons each other through the law of attraction. It's the internal thing. So
Right.
you must have needed that.
Mm.
You need it
Right.
until you go, I don't need that in me. You know what I mean? I'm not.
This is
It's simple. I mean, this lady says it all the time. You look towards somebody else for your happiness, you'll never be happy.
Absolutely.
And then it's slavery.
It's
That's
good.
slavery. You're asking somebody to figure out how to make you feel good all the time.
Thank you.
Right.
That's kind of
Thank
crazy.
you.
That's insane.
Right.
Yes,
Because
thank you.
today you could like that water. Tomorrow you might find another water and be like, hey, look. So he finally got this water right.
And now you gotta go.
Now
find
you gotta
another
go
water.
find another water because
You
and we
understand
do
what
that
I'm
a lot.
saying?
We do
So,
that a lot.
no,
Don't get. We are designed. Men are designed to figure it out. We are the ones that go. We do not want you to be mad. We do not want you to be upset. We want to try to figure out how. And sometimes, women just want to express it, and we don't want to go through the expressing part.
Right.
We want to
They just
fix
wanna
it.
fix it.
We
Yeah.
want to fix it.
And that's where men and women are
Men are from
different.
Mars.
That's
Men
right.
are from
It is-
Mars.
That's right.
Women are
Biologically,
We're from Venus.
Great book.
emotionally, absolutely.
Great book.
But I really want to touch on something that both of you, I think, have talked about companionship communication. And I think that really goes hand in hand with what you're trying to say is, well, one, it absolutely 100% does have to start here. You have to be happy with yourself. You have to be settled with yourself. You have to love yourself before you could ever love somebody else. And two, that companionship and that communication, if you come into it, say, maybe let's change the term from expectation, and this is what I would like to have in a
There you
relationship.
go.
Right.
Okay.
There you
Are you the
Conversation.
person
There
who's
you
able
go.
to, is that going to match what you're
Right.
kind
There
of
you
wanting
go.
to have in a relationship
There
and bring
you
to,
go.
and if it's not, then say, okay, we can be friends, we can be whatever, or we're going to
Right.
part ways, whatever. But having that communication and not going in blind and not expecting the other person to read your mind.
Right.
Right.
Communication is so key,
Key.
And
but
that
it has to be on the same level.
the backstory is important.
Mm-hmm.
Is very important. The backstory is everything because we all come with baggage.
Yes.
And we have to be able to identify with that. And we also have to be vulnerable enough with the person that we're interacting with to express those things. Because I mean, if a relationship is not built on healing, because that's what it's really all about, is healing each other. You have to be able to recognize that. It can't just be, oh, it's a pretty face. Now, I need to know that backstory. I need to know actually what's
What
going
makes
on.
them
Because
who they
when
are.
you get past the euphoric moment and then you start seeing the stuff, you see those sound effects. Right, when you get past all of that and you see that stuff, you have to know how to deal with that. You know what I mean? Or how could you help that situation if that's love? That's unconditional love, being willing to assist and suggest. That's a different
You
type
have
of
to
love.
love that
I love
other
it.
person,
I love
not
it.
in spite of their mess, but because
But
of their
because
mess.
of their man. And you
Say
know
that
what?
again?
You have to love that other person, not in spite of their mess, but because of their mess.
Because of who
That's a
who
good
they
point.
are. And that
That's
goes
good.
back to when relationships start. I feel it's important that there's a friendship element
Yeah.
first.
Absolutely.
Because I have to say, my husband and I, we started as friends, checking each other, how we are, how we operate in circles. How do we gel together? Every relationship has challenges, right? However, the way I see it is, and it goes back to the conversation we had earlier about accepting certain things in our relationships. Are we accepting these flaws? Are they okay? Or do we just walk away from those situations? Because there's a honeymoon phase
Right.
when you start a relationship, right?
Absolutely.
All the good is coming out.
And you're also putting out the best side of you
Exactly.
because you want to
Right.
make it work.
Exactly. You're
Yes.
putting the best side of you out front forward.
I call that Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web. That's Charlotte's Web. I call it
Web.
honeymoon phase because it's a honeymoon, right? Oh, euphoric. It's all beautiful and everything you want, and then all of a sudden the real comes out after a period of
Right.
time.
Right.
And relationships should be about realness
Right.
Right.
of
You
who
should be
you
real from the
and
beginning.
rawness
To be genuine.
of who you are.
So you should be real from the beginning. Then you should.
Yes.
You shouldn't put on the
Exactly.
facade.
There
It's
should be
not
no.
You should be you. You know why? So that that person has to say, well, is that how she is?
Or they
Can I deal
turn
with
around in
that?
2 months, they
Right.
You
change.
know?
Right.
Right. They didn't change.
Right.
They
They're
just
just being
slowly rebuild themselves.
Right.
That
You know what I'm
part.
saying? So I'm
That
gonna
part.
be me.
That
If you
part.
like me, because I like me. And if
Mhm.
you don't like me, that's okay. But because I like me first.
But that's why that whole situation of being friends, or at least getting to a place, because we get caught up in this whole, when you start getting into the whole sexual element, you lose all sight of what that person, because then you got a whole nother component you just added into the mix, right?
That's a chord.
But you have to, because that attachment is real.
Right.
That piece is real. That attachment is real.
Mhm.
And you lose sight of all other things that are important in that relationship. You have to start from a level of friendship to understand who that person is, that real person is behind those closed doors. Break down their elements of who they are as a person. And then you'll get to the realness of, is this something I want in this individual? Now, you went back to saying about, the whole love component and how you have to understand all the other elements, the political piece and all those elements. That comes again with that whole friendship and building that relationship to get to the place of eventually that love of that person,
Knowing
that
the
real
person
love.
as a human before knowing them as a relationship
Right.
partner.
That human component. So, and I know we're getting on that because I think this is important also when we talk about, just the protection of your relationship, protecting the values in your relationship, and the elements of how you speak to one another, how you act around one another, how you treat one another,
That's key.
because that's the learning
That's
piece.
key. That is key.
Threw that bottle down there with it. No.
I still feel
Yeah,
really bad for this
if I'm walking with that bottle right there, you slap that bottle down, I'm done.
It was a metaphor.
It was a metaphor for you, but it's people out there that's really like that.
No, I understand.
No,
I
There's
understand.
people out there and
No, I'm not talking. I just walk away.
yeah,
I just walk away.
yeah.
I don't have nothing to say to you.
No, I mean, it's good. I mean, I
Yeah.
love it. And
Safe
this is why
Safe
this
space.
is a safe space. And this is why it's important to have us together to have these conversations, because although we're kind of laughing and joking, it's the realness
It's so
in this
real.
room.
Right.
It's and I love this because this is the energy we need to have all the time. But
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to, and maybe this will drive the conversation forward. And these two gentlemen have been so eloquent in how they talked about masculinity and their expectations and how they present themselves and what they want out of their lives. And there's been a recent shift, and we see it here at Women's
Yes.
Resources. One, and what we're trying to teach young people is allowing men and young boys to be vulnerable and making that okay.
Yeah.
That you are human, you have emotions and you can express them, and that is okay.
Yes.
It's how you express, though,
Yes.
right?
Right.
But sometimes I think that's more of a gift and a curse for us as
Mhm.
men.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
it's so complicated.
we
I hear
are,
you.
we are, believe it or not, we walk around with our chest out and ready to
We're
pound the
very
ground, but we're
sensitive.
very emotional and sensitive.
Well, humans are.
You understand what I'm
Human
saying?
beings are sensitive people.
Certain things that certain things women can do could break us down mentally and physically,
Mhm.
mentally and physically,
Mm.
without them even knowing.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's kind of, and y'all could do it with words.
Words
Mhm.
hurt.
See, we could
sometimes
do
more
it.
than
Go.
fists.
We do our breaking down with our hands and y'all could just
Right.
say something so cool and calm,
Right.
and it'll break our whole world.
Well,
Right.
Destroy
because
our whole
it's
world.
Wow.
physical versus that
For real.
emotional. And when we work with abuse victims, and I've been in this field for 19 years, when I have a victim who has been a victim of emotional and verbal abuse, that pain and that brokenness inside of them, you're not going to see it, but that will last longer than any bruise,
That's right.
than any cut you're going to see,
That's right.
because you are attacking their soul.
Mm-hmm. That's
The
right.
person that they are inside, not just my body, not just my skin,
Mm-hmm.
my personhood. And that is so damaging, and it's so much harder for people to see.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, 100%. And to that point, and what I was trying to go for is talking about our young people
Yeah.
and talking about our youth and talking about how we can create safe spaces, because they're so surrounded by these ideas of this is the relationship I need, this is the person I want to have, and this will complete me as a human. We need to break that. You need to start here and then look outside.
Yes.
But they're skipping over like A, B, C, and D and
Taking
going
care
right
of
to
me
G.
first
Mm-hmm.
before I get to you.
Can a person really complete you? Should
No,
that person have that
nobody should
responsibility
ever-
to
no.
You should never. It should
Right.
never. You should be able to complete yourself.
Right,
That's
that's
right.
a responsibility. You're making
That's
a
right.
responsibility for somebody else. Like you should
Mhm.
complete me. Like that don't even sound right.
You have to
But-
look,
but
why are
also-
you not?
When you feel like you're attached to somebody, you're involved with somebody, whether it be man or woman,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Sometimes, it could be sarcasm in delivery.
Mm-hmm.
It could be certain things. You understand what I'm saying? They be like,
Right.
we really gotta go there, like, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Right.
again, us men, we're like considered kings. You know what I mean? This and that. So now when it's like, all right, say for instance, like I'm used to being a certain way. I'm just talking to me hypothetically. I'm not saying me first.
Here we go again.
So I'm being, we are
disclaimer.
a certain way,
Yeah.
when it comes to our neighborhoods in the world. We're a
Right.
certain way, walk around a certain way, act a certain way, whatever the case may be. But then when we come home, or whatever the case may be, and we hear like sarcasm or downplay and this and that, it's like,
When can I win?
Like, when
When
can I,
can
yeah,
I
when
win?
can
Can
I
I play? Can I play on that word though? That word completion.
Mm.
Oh, hold on, we got a call coming in. All right, give us 1 second here. Let me grab this. Hello, this is the sistership. Who do we got on?
Hey, this is Mama C calling in.
Mama
Hey,
C,
Mama
how
C.
are
How's
you?
everyone? The conversation is awesome and certainly much needed. But one of the things I'd like to share is that, and I said this yesterday at our event, a lot of women have become strong women.
Mm,
They use their masculine energy. With male and female, we both have feminine and masculine energy. But most women today are so used to using their masculine energy
mm,
that when they enter into a relationship with a man, they're using that masculine energy on that man rather than the feminine energy.
right.
Men don't respond to women coming at them in a masculine way.
Yeah.
Right.
They respond more when we are soft. We use our feminine energy, that soft, that accepting, that understanding, that caring, loving energy that feeds their soul. So women need to work on that. Yes, you can be a strong woman, but you got to know when to use that masculine energy and when to use your feminine energy.
Right.
And again,
Balance.
men do not respond in relationships to a woman who's throwing masculine energy at him all the time. He wants that soft, gentle touch, not that, brawny, manly stuff. that, women often use in the world today because they feel like they need to use it to protect themselves. If you got to protect yourself in a relationship for a man, you don't need to be in that relationship.
That right there, Mama C. That right
Okay.
there.
All right, I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Mama C. We love you.
Can I piggyback
You're
something what you
welcome.
said? You say you don't want no soft woman, but I think she's just saying soft energy.
Energy.
You know what I'm saying? It's the
There's
way
a
she
difference,
talks to you.
right.
It's the way she communicates
Oh, yeah.
with you. It's the way she deals with you. She doesn't
Right.
have to go rah.
Right.
You
The way
understand
she
what I'm
throws
saying?
that bottle.
So
It's placement.
I think we need to get a little more into why women feel that they have to get into that masculine
I mean, look
energy that we put out there sometimes.
at society.
Let's
just
talk
think
about it.
I mean, we could do. I don't really like to, but we could do slavery. I mean, who had it worse?
Mhm.
The worst. You know what I mean? I mean, that carried on through tradition.
Right.
You know what I mean, the woman right now is doing that thing that is more women than men right now. I mean, you're getting the coaching jobs, access to everything. You know what I'm saying? It right now psychologically for the male. That's why I said evenly yoked. We're, I walked into social services and I thought it was going to be a lot of women in there. It was a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to play our part. You have to really look at it as a team. You have to really look at it and say, yo, that's why I said I don't soft woman. Nah, she gotta go hard because we're not in the.
She gotta go hard though in what she does, but as far as how she treats you and how
I mean, we
the
all know
needs that
language.
you have as a man, you
We all
don't
know
want a
love
hard
language.
woman.
We
Be like,
all- we all know love
what's up?
language.
How you want?
Well,
Hey,
they say
ba-
they
you
don't-
know,
they don't
hey,
practice
baby,
it.
you know, whatever.
They don't practice love
Right.
language. That's the problem. People know it, but they don't practice it.
I'm
in
sorry,
their
I'll hit you and it'd be that.
Yeah.
But I feel like this, like,
But women,
As
hold
women-
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me land on that. But women definitely, they have to be masculine nowadays. I mean, in the 80s and the 90s, and still to this day, a woman walks past knowing that a man is going to try to talk to him. I couldn't live my life like that. You got to really think about it. As a man, we don't go through that.
That's that
But
protection
do you think-
element that we put, we
Right.
put our
But
guard up and
what I'm
protect
saying, that
ourselves.
you went through that for how many
Yeah,
years?
absolutely.
Conditioning of
Absolutely.
just that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just that part.
We have to put the armor on, and
Yeah.
sometimes we forget to take the armor off.
That's
Right.
a lot. If you really think about it, that mentality is crazy that a woman cannot walk down the street or walk past a man.
in a 10-block radius, they probably got like 50 men trying to holler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's
Yeah.
a lot of
That's
pressure.
a lot.
That's a
Look,
lot.
Look, walking to the bus
teenagers,
stop
too.
was
Yeah,
no
exactly.
joke.
There's a lot of teen. I went through that as
teens
a
too.
teenager.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I salute women. I wouldn't be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question, right? Now here's the thing, right? When you look at men, what do you see as a man like job to do with his relationship? Protect. What is it? I forget. It's protect.
No, what are you gonna provide?
I mean, if we're talking in generalities here, I'm also just throwing it out. We're also talking in very much generalities, very heteronormative relationships.
Right.
Relationships, to coin a phrase, run the rainbow. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could have a relationship that is jiving off of the female presenting partner constantly having that masculine energy, and that the masculine presenting partner is fine with that. And that's what they want out of the relationship.
Mhm.
So just putting it out there, relationships run the rainbow. We are talking in generalities, mostly heteronormative relationships.
Right.
And disclaimer.
Thank you. Appreciate the disclaimer. But I think going back to what you were saying as far as the masculine side, right, is the protection, right, the providing, the support,
Right.
and I think it also goes back to how society was many, many years ago, where the man was working, the woman was home taking care of home. We've changed and evolved from those times.
Yes.
Mhm.
But what we haven't done is discuss the change that happened also with the relationship and the responsibilities and and I don't know. I mean, for me, with my husband, like we are a team.
Right.
That's how we operate. When he's down, I pick him up. When I'm down, he picks me up. That's
Right.
how we
That's
gotta
right.
be that yin and that yang to ensure that we have a successful marriage,
Right.
right?
So-
And relationship.
To that point, and I'll be 100% honest, I am not in a relationship, and I'm also not looking for a relationship, but that's okay. But if I was, I would turn that also around and say, would the person who I'm looking for also want me to protect them,
Yeah.
support them,
Mhm.
do whatever they need to. It's a give and a take.
What's the partner wants out of the
Because
relationship?
at some point,
Right.
you cannot expect another human being, male or female, to be 110% of the time this.
Right.
Mhm.
At some time, you just need to be a little vulnerable, and that person needs to, okay, I'm stepping in. What do you
Right.
need?
Mhm.
Right.
But see, but you can have that too. But again, the mental abuse could be there sometimes.
Yes.
Right? Again, sarcasm. You can have everything. You can be my pickup. I'll be your pickup. Whatever the case may be.
Right.
But it's the
There, he
He
threw it out.
threw it out
Wasn't
there.
me.
You
It was
threw
all good.
gaslighting out.
right.
Yeah.
And then it's like
I struck a
You
nerve.
struck it
No, a
because
good nerve,
Taro,
a good
to
nerve.
what you said and to the gaslighting piece,
Mhm.
again, how do we protect our relationships and when do we say to ourselves, this is not the relationship for me?
being honest with yourself.
Right.
Being honest with yourself. That's it. Like if you trying to play this part to be this and that, and that's really not you.
Mhm.
That's the problem with people nowadays. And I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be something that they really not.
Right.
That's why me personally, I'm bringing it back to Takeover Tuesdays now. I've been here in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back there now. If you for the streets, be for the streets.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Don't commit yourself to a relationship and this guy's really into you and he's doing all this and this and that, but you're really for the streets. Vice versa, same thing. Dude, if you want to be out there running around and you got this girl and that girl and this girl, but you got this lady home and at home calling her your wife, my man, be for the streets.
Be who you are. Yeah.
Because everybody put on a facade. Again, like I say, Charlotte's Web. That web looks so nice and shiny. And, ooh, I want to. What's going on in that web? Then when I get up in that web, spun up. Now I see the ugly side of everything.
Oof.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Be who you are, and I think that's what a lot of relationships fall because everybody put on this big facade, and when the truth comes out, there's a lot of problems behind that, and there could be negative problems behind that.
I think sometimes that
Yes,
people
there you
think,
go.
I think sometimes the misconception or what people think is that it's, to your point, if I'm from the street, but I want to change, right?
Mhm.
And I find somebody who is what I want to be, you think that person's going to change you. You're still going to be who you are. You have to change for you
That's
and
right.
not expect somebody to change you for who you want to be.
Thank you.
And that is,
There you go.
and that goes even with addiction and anything. This goes with anything, right? Because, think of an addict. An addict is not going to change for you because you want him to change.
He has to change the thing.
He has to change, she has to change, whomever. They have to change for themselves
That's right.
to be productive for themselves. And then that you get a benefit out of that.
That's right.
Right.
To also
And-
turn that around, you can't go into any kind of relationship, companionship, and expect yourself to change the other person.
Oh, absolutely.
That's right.
Like they talk about that bad boy myth. Oh, I'm gonna help him.
I could
No.
change him.
I could
Yeah.
change
A lot of
him.
women
I
do
need to
that.
change
Yeah.
him.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they get in a lot
And
of
that's when you get
relationships.
it,
They should
and that's
not
why,
be in.
and that's the problem.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
trying to
trying
make me into
you.
something that I'm not.
Right.
You can't
But
bring me to this.
That's the neediness. Then you have to identify within yourself why you feel you need to do that.
Right.
Because there's something missing in you
Mhm.
that you feel you need to change somebody else, or that you can change somebody else, or you need to change somebody else.
Or
Focus on yourself.
is it something that you're not, or is it something that you've seen before and you want to be involved in that? Like
Yeah.
say your aunt and your uncle's relationship is just,
Yes, let's get to
I
family.
want to find a man like that.
Right, right.
You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? Or I want to find a woman like that.
Right.
You know?
Mhm. I want to just quickly take 1 second to say any calls, any comments, any questions, 888-304-4401 right here on the Sistership Sunday. Any comments, questions, please call in. We're available for at least the next 30 plus minutes. Man, you just went back to family. So I think, again, when we talk about what we see in the environment we grew up in, some of us break the cycle and some of us continue that cycle
Mhm.
because that's what we think is okay because it was acceptable.
Mhm.
And
Intergenerational trauma is absolutely a thing.
yes,
It comes-
And the cycle of abuse is absolutely a thing that we see every single day.
That's right.
And it's in the statistics. If a child grows up in an abusive home, whether they themselves are actually being the one abused, they are a certain percentage more likely to then have that type of a relationship as an adult. So at Women's Resources, we work with the kids, not necessarily just the children who are actively the abuse victim, but also the witnesses to the abuse. So because they're absorbing it.
Yes.
Mhm.
They're absorbing the emotions, they're absorbing the toxicity that is existing in their home. And we're trying to help them to get to that place that understands that this is not healthy and that is not something that you should want to attain.
Mhm.
Right.
They can still love both of their parents. Children have that amazing capacity for love. And we're not saying, we would never say you can't love that person or you shouldn't love that person. They're their parent, okay? It's just biological. So what we want them to understand is that sometimes adults and children, they make bad decisions. And those bad decisions will hurt other people. And sometimes they're intentional, such as abusive relationships. There's a power and control piece. And sometimes they're not. But you have to take ownership of your mistakes. And then they're having that healthy expressions of their feelings. Teaching them those kinds of things. But our dear friend said a key word here, gaslighting.
Gaslighting.
And it's a really fantastic word that is, I think, is thrown around a lot. But do we
lately.
really understand what it is? And gaslighting, it used to be called crazy making back in the heyday, crazy making. And it's a tactic that abusers use, or people who are in toxic relationships use, to make the other person feel like they are going crazy. I didn't say that. What do you mean? I didn't put that there. Making them feel like their own lived experiences, what
Making
they
it
have
up.
seen or experienced with their own eye is not true.
Right.
That's a fact.
And that what that does is it breaks down that person even more.
Because now you're playing with my intelligence.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
That's
There's a
actually
movie out there, you know that gaslighting. That's the term. Everybody should watch that movie so they can have understanding what gaslighting really is.
yeah. I
I
saw
think it
it.
was made back in the 50s.
I think it was definitely an aged
Yeah.
movie. But I agree, and that's actually a good point that you brought up as far as that, because it goes back to even what you said. You know, like if I'm dealing with something and I'm bringing it to the table, and you're telling me I didn't do that, I didn't say that, I didn't know. Why would you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all words and expressions and comments that gets you to the point like, oh my God, am I crazy? Because I know how I felt.
I cannot tell you
and
how
what
many
I heard.
hotline calls I get that. I think I'm crazy, but
But I know
you're
I
not crazy. It's
Right.
just a tactic.
right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That energy that you're getting, right? And it's like, but you know, and this goes back to the communication element and the acceptance of how that person is feeling when they're telling you, this is how I'm feeling because of how you said something or what you said or whatever have you.
Right.
That goes back to understanding how that person operates in the environment that you're in. If you don't understand them from the floor up, you're going to have a very hard time in your relationship to even have that type of dialogue.
Right.
Because then you're going to shut down.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Because now I'm not going to say anything anymore because anything I say, I feel like I'm not being heard anyway.
That's right.
Or I'm
That's right.
crazy.
That's
And that
right.
goes
You know,
into
maybe it's
that
me.
open communication,
That's right.
that healthy
Right.
communication where, and perception. And perception is
Mhm.
all an internal thing. I will say something to you. You will perceive it in some way, whether that was my intention or not.
Mm,
But
right.
that doesn't make, my intention doesn't make your perception any less real.
That's right.
Right.
You know, there's a thing my husband always says is operate from positive intent. Anything that is said or communicated, you have to operate from a place of positive intent, right? But with that positive intent, with that positive intent, hold on, we got a call coming in. Hello, this is the sistership. You'll have to turn the radio down, please. Who do we have on?
Hey, this is Darren. How are you?
Good, Taryn. That's my husband, y'all.
Salute.
What's going
No,
on?
I just was going to make a point because
Yes.
I'm listening, and you know, I think Salih made a good point, and we were even sharing on the chat, and it's something I can share as I speak. You know, 40, 50 years ago, men did give their checks to their
Mhm.
wives, real men when I say that, because that was what that meant then. The women in our communities were the builders. They went out and earned some money. But what's interesting is that when Stefani and I first were going to build, I viewed it totally different. I said, you know what, in my humble opinion, we need to look at this not just as a partnership in love, but it's a business, and I'm about that. And what we kind of actually did, and we've never argued about money. Did you know that the number one reason that people break up is not abuse, it's money? And I'm trying to make that point to say that when you build that foundation, you have to have how you're going to build together established, so you don't get to the depressive aspects of the relationship. And I think we've done that. I mean, she does her thing and I do my thing, and then when it's time for us to do joint things together, we have conversations that are rooted in respect and intends to work. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Johnson. Have a
Hey,
good
if
one.
I'm wrong, correct me.
No, you're right. You're on point. You're on point. You're on point.
And you know, that doesn't mean that there's not challenges in the relationship,
Right.
but I think that the fact that we don't have to go through those things about, you know, where this or that, or, you know, it makes our, you know, lives a bit easier. And it is rooted in respect. I found out something after 21 years. Stefani has never cursed at me, at least. And I can't say that I
Never. Respect.
but, you know, that means a lot. And when she said that, that always made me realize that, you know, the onus and the accountability is on me to give her the same respect that she's given me. So that's what I strive to do. Thank you for letting me call.
Thank you. DJ Jersey, thank you.
DJ Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, again, it goes back to the language you use with your partner. Like I've noticed how sometimes in interactions that I've seen, men and women cursing at each other, and, you know, and I'm like, you have to come from a level of respect for one another, because the second you start getting into the you a B, or you a this, or you a N, or you a A, or whatever have you, you know, that emotion, you've not really processed what's going on in the communication. When you start getting to that point of cursing each other out, you lost all sight of what the issue is. You lost all sight of respecting one another. You lost all sight of it. Just became an emotional attack at one another versus we need to have a conversation. Because the second you get there, to me, if somebody curses at me, and my husband knows, if you curse at me, conversation is over. I'm walking away. Because there's nothing good that's going to come out of that conversation. And I know my temper, because if somebody does something disrespectful to me, I can attack. And I'd rather not do that, because if I do that, nothing good's going to come out of it. And emotions are high, and then you're going to lose all respect for one another. It could be the last conversation you had. We have to be very careful how we communicate with each other. And that goes back to the protecting of the relationship is, you know, you have to protect your relationship. If that is the person you need to be with, or you're going to be with, there's a protection element. And with that comes also the verbal and the communication that you have with one another, and making sure you're using words that are not negative and going to cause hurt and pain to each other. You're not always going to agree with one another.
No.
We don't always agree with one another. And that's okay, because we have to have that conversation. Either we're going to agree or agree to disagree, and we know where it stands. But it's all in how that communication is managed.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make my husband feel any less of a man, and I don't want him to make me feel any less than a woman.
Right.
And that's how that relationship needs to be. You have to, and believe me, I've had, and I'll be very candid, growing up in our family, we had abuse in our family. You know, I mean, we come from a background of a very strong Italian father and, you know, a meek mother, you know, and that's what we dealt with. But I would never do that now. Break that cycle. Does the sistership, who's on with us today? Hello.
DJ Rudd, most interesting DJ in the world.
What's up, DJ Rudd? How you doing? This is Gynesis Radio, DJ Rudd. What you got for us?
Hey, what I gotta say, I didn't mean to cut you off too. I was trying to wait till you finish your point.
No, that's all right.
But I wanted to tap in. I say I'm piggybacking what Terrell said. Honestly, I mean, everybody says cliche, always say, you know, keep it real and be who you are, but the reality is, people fake it till they make it. You know what I mean? And everybody don't have that level of confidence. Sometimes, you know, you look at somebody and you're like, damn, like, how did this happen? I'm in this situation, and now you're trying to make it a reality. So people do have a split personality. And I think from a woman's male energy, like Mama C said, that's attractive to me in some forms. Like when I'm watching my wife handle predators and all that, I'm turned on by that. But to turn that theory on me, it's not cute anymore. You know what I mean?
There's a time and place.
Turn on and off. And also, I think from a man perspective, a man has to realize, I say this all the time, a man is not a prophet in his own home. Like when I'm at Genesis, I'm DJ, my most interesting DJ in the world. When I'm at home, I'm just Kenny.
Right.
And my 2-year-old granddaughter's gonna walk in here, say hi, Papa, give me the remote. She don't care if I'm watching a game. She gonna turn on Coco Melon and she gonna bully me. And you know what? I have to tone down at home. So we gotta have different energies and different roles.
Right.
But as far as for the women, the toughness is necessary sometimes. You just, you know, gotta know when to turn it on and off, and you know, you can't play that solely with your partner. That's never gonna work.
Right.
So I just want to leave it at that. You guys are doing a great show. The panel is great. The energy is great. Keep up the good work, and I'll see y'all guys soon.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank
Run. Peace.
Now, I loved his points.
Idea.
Yes. About authenticity and being genuine in relationships.
Right.
And it really comes back to, I think what we've all circled back to is that you have to be genuine with yourself. You have to be, if this is a person that you maybe see yourself with, be genuine with them up front. Be genuine with your expectations, with your wants, your needs. But also to that point is, trying to remember how he phrased it.
The woman and the energy, the woman energy and the
So
energy.
the faces. We all have so many faces.
Yeah.
We have our home face. We have our work face. We have our friend face. We have our faith face.
Right.
We have all the different faces, right? Okay. All of them are still real. Like they're still all. We're all so multifaceted. We're like imagine a diamond or a cubic or whatever it is, gemstone. And they all have these little facets. It's still all part of the same gem. It's going to look a little different from every single angle, but still the same gem, right? And that's okay. That's who we are. But I think being honest with yourself and honest with your partners and with your friends and the people that you circle with. I have my boss voice, and my sister teases me about my boss voice because it's definitely lower. It's more intense. It's how I get things done at Women's Resources. But when I go and I have family time, I take boss voice off.
Yeah.
But when they witness boss voice, when I get a call from Who's He What on Saturday, and I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna happen. Nope, boss hat goes back on, and it's a little intense. But I'm able to take that off, and it's important to know you can take it off. Right. It's safe to take it off. It's important to take it off so you can be that genuine Lauren self when you're at home.
You want to relax. You want to be at peace. You want to be. You don't want to always want to be on the defense, and that's the thing with a lot of relationships.
Right.
You always got some relationships. You always got to be on the defense because you don't know how this person's going to come at you today.
Right.
What's the attitude today? How's it going to do? What's going to happen?
Eggshells.
Right.
It's walking on eggshells in abusive relationship. If you have to do that, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
But there's also sometimes calls for it as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like you said, if I know you like that type of water,
And you keep
and I
doing
keep
what you're doing.
bringing that whatever water, you understand what I'm saying? I deserve, not saying I deserve it, but I already know. Oh boy, here we go. I did not tell you I don't want it. Oh boy, I should have. Here we go. I should have known about it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
These are the things and that's the thing. Like I said, as far as relationship wise, me personally, I feel like a relationship should be based off the day we met. not the day we met, but the times we had together.
Right.
We laughed, we joked, we
Moment.
snapped
The
on people.
moments.
Everything was happy. When I'm around you, I'm at ease. When you're around me, your hair is down. We can
Right.
talk about whatever. We can pick each other's noses. We can do whatever we want around each other. But you
That's
understand
a
what
little
I'm saying?
too much intimacy.
But you understand what I'm saying?
No,
Right.
absolutely.
If you have that type of relationship with a person, then that's going to last forever because we
Yes.
know each other. We're fun and we do
Right.
this.
When you know you
Right.
can be your authentic self, whatever that
Yes.
self decides to be
That
with
part.
that other person,
Yes.
then that is a healthy
That part.
relationship.
Yes.
It is.
That part.
And when
That part.
the bickering and the sarcasm and all this and all that comes into play, then that's when the defense shells come up.
Mhm.
Right.
And this goes back to, again, what do you want? First of all, what do you want for you, right? What you're comfortable with, have you fixed you? And then what do you want in your partner, right? Or what you accept, I'll say accept. What do you want from your partner? Because not everything's going to be 100%. Let's be
Mhm.
honest.
I
Right.
mean,
You're
you're
not-
100% build a robot.
Exactly. You're not going to get
Fuck that.
100%. And some
Weird
people put
science.
all these
Exactly.
expectations on
Right.
what they want and whatever have you. I want a tall guy and 6'3" and 150. Got to be muscular, or maybe I like a little. Stop. And then you bypass all the character flaws
Right.
and all the
Mhm.
character,
That part.
So, and I want to just go back because I talked quickly about my father. I just want to be very clear. He's a changed man because of addressing the issue of that. That abuse was not, and I think it's also had to do with his upbringing as well. People can
Intergenerational
change.
trauma.
Generational trauma.
Right.
People can change, and I want to be clear. It's not really, if there's that type of abuse or there is abuse in your relationship and that person is willing to change and get help to change, they can change.
But it has to come
But
you
it
said
has
the
to
key
come
word,
from
you said
them.
Willing.
Willing,
Willing.
exactly.
They want to change.
Do not change somebody who does not want to change. They got to be aware that they are to the point of they feel the hurt that they're causing,
Right.
and they know they're the reason why they're doing that, and that they need to want to change. And I have to say, and I love my dad, he's a changed man, and I have to give him 110% credit because it took time for him to see the error of his ways, and he did change. There is the ability to change if you really want to change. And again, you have to do it for you, not for anybody else. So with that said, I had to throw it out there because I didn't want, my dad, I love you. Mom, I love you. We already know what we've been through, so
Yeah.
we good. So with that said, going back to, and DJ Rudd said, the different facades, right? The different faces we have, and different things, and then the woman and the man side. And I agree, like for me, and I think you said, I don't want just a soft woman. I want tell me, when do you want that hard woman? Because women in society today have had to play the hard male role because of bringing up families, being single parents, back to your mom, right?
Careers.
And condolences for your mom as well for your loss. All the things that we've had to, and also because of how we've been treated even for men, because they look at us like, even in careers and now we're starting to see more women kind of build up and run things, right? However, it took a lot for us to get there,
Right.
right?
And it stems a lot back from, you especially saw it during World War II, where the men folk were called to duty and the women were expected to step up. They took manufacturing jobs. You saw it. They made a movie about it, League of Their Own, baseball. But then the war ended, and they were kind of expected to go back to being Susie the homemaker. And some of the women were like, "But I like this,
Right.
I like this." And it's just it waxes and wanes. But it has that bit of a wave mentality where eventually, I hope we can see that bit of, if not equity, because equality and equity are very different.
Right.
At least close to equality, where there's not this expectation for males to be as such and females to be as other such, where it's okay to be whoever and however you're going to be.
Right.
I mean, I had so many friends, a couple of friends who they wanted to be nurses and they were men and they were laughed at. You know what past 2 years ran this world? Nursing.
Nursing.
Nurses. They
Right.
run the hospitals, not the doctors, it's the nurses. Nurses, I love you.
Right.
But
Love
it
you.
needs to be understood. You have to be comfortable with you, but the world also needs to change a little bit. We're
Yes.
working at it. We're getting
Yeah.
closer to it.
Yeah.
To allow for people to be their authentic self. If you want to be a nurse, be a nurse. If you want to be a drag queen, be a drag queen. If you want to be a truck driver, be a truck driver. If you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. It is a job.
Right.
They don't have a gender.
Live your life.
Live your life.
Live your life. And I mean,
Let others live their lives and respect them.
and I think that's where this whole judgment, right? Judgment of people and judgment of people's relationships and whatever have you. And, you know, again, if you're in an unprotected relationship, you know, for the most part, because of how you're feeling, you have to understand how you're feeling in that relationship, whether you're feeling good, you're not feeling good.
Do you feel safe?
Do you feel
That
safe?
is the key word that I ask anybody
Yeah.
who talks to me and they're calling on their hotline or meeting them out there. And whenever someone realizes I work at Women's Resources, I'll be at the grocery line and then I get their life story. But you know what? I ask them, say, do you feel safe at home? Do you feel safe with this other person? And if you can't give me a resounding yes, then let's examine that. Let's
That's a good
examine
point.
that.
That's a good point.
Emotionally and physically, do you feel safe?
So let me ask y'all a question, right, as women, right?
Mhm.
Because 9 times out of 10, when the relationship is not working, especially in marriage, right, a woman, the first thing she says, let's go to therapy. Do you think therapy works?
Okay, so you have to want it.
Right.
I can
Right.
say, okay, Stephanie and I are married. I say, let's go to therapy, honey. And you're not into it, it's not gonna help anybody.
Right.
That
You
part.
have to wanna get therapy too. Again, couples therapy is great. I also include, on top of that, individual therapy for both of
Yes.
these parties. I am a huge proponent of therapy. I go to therapy myself. I love it. I think everybody should have a therapist.
Yes.
It should be just assigned at 18 years old or younger. Boom, this is your therapist. It is so helpful to have that objective. You are not a part of my life. You do not have any stake in my life.
Right.
To give you feedback,
Mm-hmm.
to be a sounding board, to be this safe space. But they have to want it.
Right.
Couples therapy only works if both parties put an equal amount of work.
And you have to be accepting of not just the therapy session, because some people just say, just to keep my wife or my husband happy, and we're going to do it, right?
Right.
Some people
That's
do
right.
that.
Nope.
But if you're not willing to accept the feedback and to be able to change, and that goes back to what I was saying with my dad, if you're not willing to accept what you are being told or the feedback you're given and what you can do to change,
Right.
and you just keep doing what you're doing, it's never going to work.
A lot of therapy is a mirror.
Right.
And sometimes that makes people really uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
They don't like what they see in the mirror. We're going to maybe talk about a figurative mirror because that's a different thing entirely. But you have to look internally first. We keep going back to that. And that's what couples and individuals therapies does is there's a lot of pointing figures and you go back to the schoolyard. Okay, I'm pointing, but I have 3 fingers pointing back, right?
Right.
It always comes back to you. You cannot control another person's their actions and reactions. All you can do is control your own actions and your own reactions. There's 2 sides of the street. I learned this in therapy. Thank you, Sheila. There's 2 sides to the street in everybody's life, and it's a double yellow line. You got your side of the street, and you got the rest of the world's side of the street. On your side of the street is things that you control. Your life, your health, your business, things that you can control. And then the other side of the street is your friends, your family, the other things that you can control. You can choose to go onto that side of the street, but then you have to understand you might be accepting more than you're actually wanting. You don't have to invite other people onto your side of the street.
Right.
It is a clear boundary, and it's an emotional boundary. But people need to understand you have to, therapy is intense, it's mirrors, and you're going to work harder than you think in therapy. And you have to find the right therapist. I shopped around. It is absolutely intentional and expected to shop around for the right therapist.
Yep.
I went through 4 before finding Sheila. She was great. And you have to put in the work. And it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not going to be happy. It's called growing pains for a reason.
And that's where I think, accepting when, your partner comes to you and says, I really think we need therapy, right? A lot of times if they say no, it's because they don't want someone to tell them about what their flaws may be, right? And it's difficult sometimes for people to accept that. You know how many times we say, you know, we're in a marriage or whatever, and or kids, they don't listen to their parents, but they'll listen to a sibling or they'll listen to an auntie or whatever have you, because you're so close in that relationship that you feel that person doesn't. What's crazy is they know you better than you know yourself a lot of times, but because you're so close in that relationship, they don't want to take that feedback from you, but they have to accept it from somebody else because somebody else is looking into that relationship and probably seeing what you see, or probably seeing what you see, or you see. However, coming from another individual who's far removed from the relationship, it's more accepting because they're looking from the outside in, not from the inside out.
And I want to say this too.
That's deep.
I just want to say this real quick. You are a villain in somebody's story.
Yes.
A lot of us act like, oh no, that's not. You paint me a different way. No, but that's their perception of you maybe at that
Perception.
moment. And just accept it. Just leave it as it is. You don't have to go into depth, but you are a villain. And a lot of people don't want to face that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then you got also a lot of people that's making you a villain.
That's
In reality, they're the villain.
That's a different.
That goes
but I
back to
get
that
Yeah.
gaslighting
Yeah.
and things of that
That goes
nature.
back to the intention.
Right.
But if your intention is pure, you are a villain sometimes.
Mhm.
I know I'm a villain sometimes. That's just me being honest with myself because maybe I didn't view from their perspective. They're looking at it at a different lens of eyes.
Mhm.
And sometimes we have to go there, but we don't want to do that because, like you said, we got to go look at self. We don't want to.
Right.
Putting up a mirror is not easy.
It's not. And I believe in
Mhm.
therapy too. I'm a big advocate for it because I've been in it for years and I'm
Mhm.
still there, even though I'm at
We
a
are all
healthy
works
space.
in progress.
I still think it's great. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
None.
And that's
Reduce that stigma.
right.
Right.
The stigma of people thinking if they go for help or they're going to see someone they're getting therapy, that it's like this stigma that there's something wrong with you, to the point where we all got flaws.
Right, of course.
We all have
Yes,
issues
right.
that we, because of, again, society, growing up in
Mhm.
certain environments, what people are putting on you, things of that nature, things that you yourself are feeling. It's a stigma that we have to break. Mental
Absolutely.
health is important, and it's
It's the
important
same
for
thing as physical
everybody.
health. We need to normalize
Right.
it. If I have a fever, if I have a broken arm, if I have whatever, I'm going to see my
Going to
doctor.
see your doctor.
If I hurt in my heart
Mhm.
and in my head, I'm going to see a doctor.
Right.
It's just a different kind of doctor. We can normalize that.
And this is why in so many relationships, you also hear about suicidal tendencies or whatever have you, people not coping, right, with what they're dealing with. So they start going to the levels of suicide or, doing some crazy things, whatever have you, because they can't cope with what's going on in a relationship, or because somebody's gaslighting them. So they think there's something wrong with them. So they're trying to appease the partner. So they do things that are not even constructive for them. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's the stigma that we have to eliminate because it's important for
Can I
us.
do a quick plug? Because you brought up
Absolutely.
suicides, and I just have to because we need to get that word out. The suicide hotline has changed. It is a text and call line, 988. 3 numbers. That's all you need to remember.
Oh.
Suicide hotline, 988. You can text it, you can call it. You will be connected to a counselor. Really important.
Awesome. Thank you
nationwide?
so much.
Nationwide. It's a
Nationwide.
national.
Okay.
Is that the new number? That's right. It was because it was
Mhm.
posted out there.
Yep,
Thank
this
you.
is the new national suicide hotline, 988.
988.
24 hours a day, 7
I'll
days
say
a
one
week.
thing.
Yes.
To my fellas out there too, man, just know that it's all right to talk.
Mhm.
It's all right to relay your feelings, man. Whether it be
Yes.
to your brother, whether it be to your friend, your aunt, whatever. Just get it out. Because us as men, we're scared to let emotions out.
Right.
We're scared to look weak in front of other men. You understand what I'm saying? It's okay to cry. It's okay to
Please.
get a hug.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
Say it
a lot
louder.
of a lot of suicide rates is like due to men. A lot of men are committing suicide because they're feeling like they have nowhere to go to,
Right.
no one to talk to, because you don't want to bring this whatever you have on you or on your back to your woman or your family. You understand what I'm saying? You want to bring your burdens onto them. So we hold it in and we fight with ourselves every day, or we feel like, okay, well, I'm around, saying, Salih, I can't be talking about what's going on in my household. They're gonna look at me like I'm a clown or I'm a chump or something. I can't lay that down. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
again, man, it's all right to talk, man. We got to
Yes.
start doing that. We got to start letting our emotions out. We got to let it out. We can't hold them in, man. We're human.
I
We're
received
human.
a check-in message Friday, right? And I told the person that I was going to therapy, right? but I was going to physical therapy.
Mhm.
I wasn't going, and they assumed that I was going to therapy,
Mhm.
right? And the message is kind of like what's going on right here, right now. You know, she said, so the men you know that are going through something are seeking therapy. That's the work we're talking about, the steps. Our Black men should not be ashamed to reach and seek out help, but we understand that there is a stigma.
Yeah.
Let yourself be an example to your fellow friends, brothers, that it's okay to see a therapist and share your feelings and thoughts.
Mhm.
That's doing the work as well.
Absolutely.
100%
real,
agree
though,
with
man.
that.
That's
I mean,
real, man.
regardless of what she thought, you know, at the end of the
Still
day,
accurate.
that's a message right there.
Her intentions were, you know.
That's a message right there.
Same thing with the women. Same thing
Yeah.
with the women.
Right.
If you feel you're getting mentally abused or physically abused, because a lot of women don't like to put that out there neither.
No.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Oh, my husband beat me last night, or he's this and that. No, they want to put on that. Oh, we're all right. You know,
right.
he's just, you know,
He's just playing. He's
Yeah,
playing.
or just showing me he loves me. That's how he
Right,
loves
Oh,
me. And all that.
Lord.
You gotta talk. You gotta let it out.
Call the hotline.
It's
Yes.
interesting that you said that because recently I was talking to somebody that I know that I'm really close to, and I'm just paying attention to their body language and certain things. So I started to ask them probing questions because I already knew, but I just wanted to see if she was going to tell me. I said, "Well, the person that you're involved, have they ever hit you?" And she confided in me and she said yes. And I just appreciated that alone because I don't think she told anybody outside her
Yeah.
best friend. So I'm the first person in the family
Yeah.
that she exposed that to.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now it's all about, well, how can we help you?
That's right.
And I put that out there to her. I'm not here to judge you. I don't care
I want to help
what
you.
that is.
Right.
Tell me.
Right.
And we consider an exit strategy. And that's
Absolutely.
my mindset because
And
I'm
that's-
trained that way.
That is so important. You to be non-judgmental. That is the first key thing that we train our crisis counselors. That when you have no idea what's going to happen when you get a hotline call, you have no idea who's going to be on the other end. All you know is that they're looking for help.
Mhm.
All right, and we are non-judgmental and we are empowering. For our two guys here in the room, yes, our name is Women's Resources, but anyone can be a victim of domestic or sexual violence.
That's a fact.
Therefore, anyone can
That's a
call
fact.
our hotline, and even significant others, family members of victims. We get calls from this. How can I help them?
Right.
All right, let's talk about it. We are often, like your friend, the first person that they will tell because it's such a thing of keeping it behind closed doors.
Right.
Mhm.
This is a family issue. We're
Oh.
gonna keep it in the family,
Yeah.
as we talked about before.
Yes.
And we're slowly breaking that mindset
Mhm.
that again, it's safe to talk to
Mhm.
certain people, finding your safe person, whether it's a friend or a family member or a hotline number, 570-421-4200.
Say it again.
570-421-4200, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That you have to get out those emotions. And going back to what you just said about emotions, if you bottle these emotions up and you just cover them and cover them and cover them, imagine you're shaking up a soda bottle.
Yes.
What's going to happen?
Explode.
It explodes,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
If you let it
Just fester.
just let it out a little bit at a time, and that's okay. That's normal. And I so appreciate what you said about normalizing emotions, normalizing feelings. And if you're in a partnership, if you're in a relationship and it's healthy and you feel safe, that is such an amazing sign
Yes.
to show that other person that you trust them enough to be vulnerable.
Mhm. Mhm.
Love
That can be a game changer.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I done cried in front of my wife many times. If I had, like, when the world, I felt like the world was too much for me.
Mhm.
I didn't cry. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah,
I cried because but she's there to comfort me.
it's normal.
And that's
You
normal.
understand?
We all got tear ducts. Well, actually, no, that I can't even say that. Certain people don't. But crying, expressions of feeling sadness or anger or disappointment is normal.
Mhm.
And you know, and that's where I think again, women, men supporting one another or whoever your partners, whoever you are, gender neutral, whatever have you. I think at the end of the day, it's about how you support your partner. It's about how you interact with one another, making sure they feel safe with being vulnerable. To your point. And if you are, again, and we reiterate this over and over again because it's very important, if it's abusive, if you're not feeling safe, if you feel that you are having to be who you're not in that relationship and you can't fix it through some type of therapy and acceptance and things of that nature, it is time to either get help or leave the relationship. Some people just don't leave the relationship
Right.
because of fear of there's
so many
nothing
reasons.
out there
And
for
finances,
me,
that's one of the
financial
biggest things.
reasons,
Right.
you know, so many different reasons, right? It's just, I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
I don't know where to go. There are so many survivors of abusive relationships. There are so many survivors that we don't hear enough about,
Mhm.
that you need to understand that you can survive,
Right.
you can get out. When it's done, it's done. You can get out. Life goes on.
Mhm.
Do not give up, because there are people here that are willing to root for you and help you to get out of the situation you're in
Mhm.
by giving you the resources, talking through with you, supporting you, whatever have you, financial or otherwise. Please do not just sit in a
You're
relationship
not alone.
that you're not protected in.
You always like when I throw out stats. I throw out stats before the show. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men are victims of some kind of interpersonal violence. We use interpersonal violence to also include sexual,
Mhm.
emotional, financial abuse.
And that's
And
reported
that's just
only.
the reported
Right.
statistics.
Right.
So if you are a male out there, someone who is masculine presenting, male, and you do not feel safe in your relationship, you do not feel supported in your relationship, you are not alone. 1 in 6. That is a large number of
It
people
is.
who have also experienced abuse
Mhm.
from a partner. So you are not alone. And please reach out for help.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Last comments, Lady K.
We unpacked so much.
So
today.
much. I think we need to come back to have more of this discussion. I love this.
Yeah, this was great.
Mhm.
You know, you just mentioned real quick about survivor. You know, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and that's why I said, you know, when I had that person in my family, you know, talk to me, I already knew, because I'm able to identify. It's important for me because I know what it looks like. It wasn't physical for me; it was psychological. But still, the thing about me, I was able to identify. So if you, the person, I think you should get yourself familiar on the signs. People should get yourself familiar what it looks like.
Yes.
You know, is that, like you said, is it toxic? That's the big thing too. What does toxic look like? What does you know healthy looks like? You know, so I think a lot of people should get themselves familiarized. And number one thing too, don't judge. Don't judge. So get yourself familiar and don't judge. And if you can help them make an exit strategy. I think that'd be awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you, Lady K.
Survivorship, really important. Again, yeah, we've unpacked a lot.
I know,
And
a
this
lot.
has been a fantastic conversation. And I'm so appreciative to have our men bring in such really great key points. So thank you both for coming onto the show with us. I think if I ever have one last comment, is what we've already talked about, is to find who your authentic self is. Love comes within first, before you look outwards. And if you can't be happy with yourself, you're not going to be happy with anybody else. And for those who are survivors, for those who are victims, for those who are thrivers, that there is hope, there is help, there is someone who will be non-judgmental to talk to you at Women's Resources. We do have those information about red flags on our website. We have a great resource list. You can go onto it at wrmonroe.org. Follow us on Facebook. We put a lot of great stuff out there, some myths and facts. We're really trying to change the way people view domestic abuse as being just a women's issue. It's not. Whether it's about male victims, but it's a human issue. Men also can be game changers, to have the allyship, to speak out, to normalize healthy expressions of feelings, that we can start to see the changes that we want to see in the world. So I think that everything that we've talked about has been absolutely important, but for people to understand that you need to look here first before looking out.
Within, before you look out.
I like that.
Taro, what you got for us? Any last comments or words?
Everybody,
You gave
to
us a
all
lot today.
my people that's in the relationships, you know what I mean? Let's look at the bigger picture here. Live, learn, and enjoy each other. All of the negativity and all that, let it go. Just enjoy each other. Life is short. Life is short. if you know, I mean, I'm not saying just stick around if you going through problems or relationships
Right.
or whatever you're going through. But if you're in a happy relationship, enjoy each other, love each other, respect each other. That's the keys to me. That's the keys to happiness right there, especially in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Love, laughter, and respect.
Love, laughter, and respect.
And
I like
understanding.
that.
I'm sorry.
Understanding.
I'm gonna make that a bumper sticker.
Thank you. Why do we need a bumper
I'll quote you.
sticker? Salid Bay,
All right,
more to life.
I always come away from these discussions with, where I have to reflect, and just keep pushing the ball forward. I mean, there's many facets to people, so you just gotta work with it. But it's a great discussion. I'm glad that at first I was kind of nervous coming away.
You ain't the only one, dude. I have butterflies in my stomach.
I'm glad you were with me.
I'm like, I hope I don't say nothing wrong. I go home. I got
We
bags
gotta be
packed outside. I gotta find somewhere to live now. I say the wrong thing on the radio.
Yeah.
Nah, this is
No,
safe
this
space.
is real. This is a safe space for
But
sure.
I appreciate y'all allowing me here. So that's great.
More to life.
Yeah.
There's more to life. Takeover Tuesday, Tarot, more to life. Salid Bay, Lady K, always on the sistership, my co-host, and Lauren Peterson from Women's Resources. Thank you all for being a part of this panel. I hope and pray that those in our audience have listened attentively and really took something out of this discussion within your personal, how you manage your own personal inside, your heart, how you feel, etc., as well as what you're doing within your own relationships or how your own relationships are being managed. It's important to protect your relationship, and that starts with self. Then that goes outward. So with that said, thank you so much. This is the Sistership right here every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your girl, Stephia, bringing you the heat up in here with our panel today, Protecting Your Relationship. Thank you so much for watching us and listening in. We'll see you again next Sunday. And this is your girl again, Stephia, the Sistership. Peace.